Hey everyone, what's going on? I'm Brad. Welcome back to another episode of That Makes Sense, the YouTube channel about vinyl records, electronic music, synthesizers. So yeah. Anyways, I'm excited about today's episode. We're back, digging back in with the Depeche Mode vinyl box sets, which were a re-release of the Depeche Mode 12 inches that came out with each album all throughout the 80s to the 2020s. So I'm excited about this one because this box set is for Depeche Mode's probably most well-known, most famous album, 1990's Violator. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Here is the box for it. Lovely red. It looks really cool. Has the Violator rose on it. And then the back has what's on it. Every box set comes with a poster. In this case is my favorite Depeche Mode song and artwork. It's from Enjoy the Silence, that beautiful blue background with the white rose, the scribbled Anton Corbijn photograph, which I think is very cool. So yeah, I think where do we start with this one? Again, these box sets follow basically the European or UK releases of the singles. For the most part, it stays close, but it differs in some time. For this one, there actually is an unreleased song, official release song, that I'll talk about, or an official unreleased remix, which surprised me that it was never released, and I'll talk about that. But let's start with the first single from Depeche Mode's Violator. It's 1989's Personal Jesus. For those of you that don't know the story, the way they promoted this is they put an ad out in a newspaper and put a phone number out and said, call here for your own personal Jesus. So, you've got these, religious people calling in the phone number. And what do you hear when you called in the phone number? You heard the song Personal Jesus, which I think is just a great idea. But here is the first record from the box set. It's the Personal Jesus. And I actually never had any of these original European imports because the US releases were fairly similar. But I'll talk about some of the differences. There's a little bit of nudity, so I'll try to cover the back cover. But basically what it has, this first one is Personal Jesus, a Holier Than Thou approach, which is basically, I would consider the 12-inch extended version of Personal Jesus. It has a B-side, Dangerous, which is Essential remix. And then it has the acoustic version of Personal Jesus, which is pretty awesome. If you've never heard it, take a look at it. And I really think maybe, decades later, Johnny Cash ended up doing a cover of Personal Jesus, which I think, for Martin Gore, I don't know how you could get a better compliment as a songwriter. And I think, who knows if Mr. Cash had heard that acoustic rendition of Personal Jesus, but I think if you hear that acoustic version, you can understand, if you strip out all the electronics, it's, with most Depeche Mode songs, it's still a great song. And you can hear why I think Johnny Cash would appreciate that song. So the second record, just like the UK, is the second release of Personal Jesus. Like I've said in the past, especially back in the 80s and 90s, A lot of the Depeche Mode singles were released as 2 records. And then in the U.S. it was released as one. But there's the back of that. Try to block out the nudity the best I can. But on the back, it has this record has the pump mix of Personal Jesus, the telephone stomp mix, and then the another remix of Dangerous, the Hache mix, which is a pretty cool remix. Again, I wish the singles would have included the 7-inch version of Dangerous. I know they were trying to stick to their original releases, but it would have been nice if they put that on there. So I'm going to... so that was basically the UK release mixes. I'm going to talk about the US mixes. And in the US, they only had like 1 record releases. I think, when you're in the US, you got the better bargain sometimes. You got the better deal because instead of buying 2 records, you could buy 1 and have all the remixes. So here's what that looks like on the back. The cover is, it's basically the same as the Boxset, the UK release. But basically, you've got all the songs, Personal Jesus, Holier Than Thou, Approach, which is like a 12-inch. This actually includes the 7-inch, the single version of Personal Jesus. So on Violator, it's got basically another version that like I would consider an album version. But on here, it's a 7-inch. So it's basically a edited down version of what's on Violator. Then you have the Personal Jesus Pump Mix, which I don't know. Yeah, okay, so that's on the second record of the UK release. You've got Dangerous Hache Mix. The original US version of the record has the Dangerous 7-inch mix. So, but what it's missing is the Sensual mix of Dangerous, which surprises me. I thought it had it, but I guess it doesn't. The cassette tape, I believe, the US release of the cassette tape has the Sensual mix. So that's one of the differences. I do have the cassette tape somewhere, but I really have to dig through my stuff to find that tape. But that is some of the differences. I think most of the remixes that you see on the UK releases, even though not all of them were on the record version, or not all of them were on the CD version, I should say. And I think the Sensual remix was on the US CD version. So all the mixes were there, but it just depended on what format that you got. So that's one of the differences between the US and the UK remixes. So let me go to the next song, and that is 1990's Enjoy the Silence, which the mini poster's on. I just love this song. I'll talk about this. It's number one. It's my favorite song of all time, but also it's the song that got me into Depeche Mode. It is a song that got me into electronic music and dance mixes. By that time in 1990, the song had come out, and it was all over the radio. At least it was all over the radio in the U.S. And I remember it was out. I think it came out like in February, but I started hearing it like spring break maybe. When I was down in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and I was just hanging out there, and we had MTV there, so they were playing the music video a lot. But I'd always like try to write down the word. Depeche Mode's a long word, and somebody just says it real fast. It's like Depeche Mode, Depeche Mode, or whatnot. It's like what? Hold on a second. That's so I always struggled on trying to figure out who did that song and what's the name of the song. And I remember walking into a record store at the mall. It's like, what is, they were playing it. And I was like, what is this song? I still didn't catch it for whatever reason. But finally, I thought I had kind of figured out the name of the song and who did it. And I was at a Pizza Hut. Now keep in mind, this is back way before the days of YouTube and the internet, 1990. So it's like, if you grew up in that time, you will remember that, like, if you heard a song that you really liked, like on the radio, because that's where you hear the new music, on the radio. Didn't have the internet. You call the radio station, say, what's that song? Or you'd wait till the end and hope the announcer said the name of the song and who did the song. That's all you had, you know? So it's not just like you put your phone up and to the speaker and say, who does this song? And boom, it's there. Like, you actually had to do research back in the day. So I remember I was at the Pizza Hut jukebox. Back then, like, it wasn't MP3s. They had like CDs in the jukebox. This was like a big glorified CD changer. And I saw what I thought was the song. And I remember putting in my quarter, because it cost a quarter at the time to play the song. And sure enough, Enjoy the Silence popped up on the jukebox. I think I asked somebody at Pizza Hut, hey, can I get a pen to write down the name of the song? Because I finally knew who did the song. And so I went into the music store, one of those chain. It's called Camelot Music. And I don't know if it was a chain or not. But I went in, asked if they had, I was like in middle school, and I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't want to buy the album. I didn't have the money for the album, so I said, can I buy the cassette single? So at that time, they used to sell 7-inch versions of, instead of a 7-inch record, it was like a cassette single, which had, the single version of the song, and then on the B side, it's the B side of the song. Well, that was out of stock, and the woman said, would you want to buy the maxi cassette single? And I was like, what is a maxi single? So it turns out that they had in stock a cassette tape of the remixes of Enjoy the Silence. And I'll show you what that looked like. This is actually the cassette tape right here of Enjoy the Silence, a maxi single. There's on the back. This has been played a lot. You can see the worn out. I mean, I must have put this in my Walkman a million times. And I even DJ'd sometimes on cassette tapes. And I can see I put my pen to mark where the Hands and Feet remix began on the cassette tape. So because it was the second song on the cassette tape on side 2, and like if I was playing that when I DJ'd, I knew exactly where to cue it up on a cassette tape player. So that's the story about how I got into remixes, learned about remixes. And then from there was like a dance music show on the radio called All Mixed Up. It was in Columbus, Ohio, back in the early 90s. And that show may still be on the radio. But back then it was on a radio station called CD 101, which is an alternative music station. This would have been around 1991. There's a DJ named Michael Swaggerty. He had been DJing since the 1970s. He was DJing a dance club called Hot Peppers in Columbus. But he had that dance show All Mixed Up. And it was the first time that I had ever heard music beat mixed and mixed together. So not only did I learn about what a remix was, but I heard that, oh my God, you could like blend the volume you could blend two songs together and mix one into the other. And when I heard that, I was just blown away. I remember like listening to him. He was mixing in like the Unfettered remix of Chains of Love by Erasure into another song. I was like, oh my God, what is this? It's like, because before I was just used to listening to like the top 40 radio stations, and they didn't have a lot of dance or electronic music, and they weren't doing like dance shows. So it was really a really cool. It really opened me up to music and DJing and dance music and stuff. So on the UK release, this first record, they actually have Enjoy the Silence, the 7-inch version, which is basically the same as what's on the album Violator, but on Violator, following Enjoy the Silence, they have this kind of quick instrumental thing called Crucified, which is one of those weird Depeche Mode songs that they sometimes slip between like one song, after one song, before another one starts. I love that they do that stuff. I wish they would do it more. They haven't done that, I don't think, since like Sounds of the Universe, but I like how they used to do that. But then the next one is Enjoy the Silence, a Hands and Feet mix, which is basically the extended version, or it's like more of kind of a dance mix. It's my favorite version of the song, Hands and Feet mix. Then there's the Enjoy the Silence ecstatic dub, which is kind of a trippy dub mix of it. And then there's a B-side called Sibling, which is kind of just a weird instrumental. But here is the back of it. I love the back. That's just such classic Depeche Mode right there. So there's actually 3 records for Enjoy the Silence in the Violator box set. And I don't have any of these originally. I always had the US releases. But this second record, what's special about this is it has the quad final mix of Enjoy the Silence. And basically the quad final mix, and I think that's all that's on this record. I'll show the very cool cover again. Here's the back of it. But what is on the quad mix, it's basically like a 15-minute long version of Enjoy the Silence that I could like listen to over and over again. And like they start with like a dancey mix of it, and then it like kind of goes out into this like place where it's just kind of these clock sort of sounds, bong, and then it goes into like a classical overload of the song, and then it goes back into a dance version. But if you've never heard the quad mix of Enjoy the Silence, I would highly recommend it to you. Now the quad mix, the final mix, was never released on CD in the US back in the 90s, except I think it was in a Japanese box set. So the US CD single of Enjoy the Silence, it did not have the quad final mix. If you wanted that, you had to get the cassette tape, because the cassette tape has a quad mix. So it has the quad mix, the ecstatic dub, the bass line, Hands and Feet, and then Mephisto, which is another instrumental B-side. Now I should say it was released later on in the US on CD, and that was in 1998 when the greatest hits came out. I think, what was it? 1986 to 2008 or something like that. There was like it was like a double CD, if you remember, and there was like a limited edition bonus CD on there, and it had the quad mix. And I was so excited because it was the first time that the quad mix had come out on CD, and it was a little bit prior to MP3 starting to come out, but I finally had a digital version of the quad mix. I think it also had a remix of World in My Eyes, the Safar mix, which is a really cool remix. And something else, I can't remember what it had, but yeah, but it was kind of a rare thing. So let me show you the third record for the Enjoy the Silence from the Violator box set. It's this yellow one. Again, these are to model the European UK releases. It's got the same back cover as the first record in the series. But this has Enjoy the Silence, the bass line. Excuse me, Enjoy the Silence, the harmonium mix, which is like a slow version. Really, basically the demo of Enjoy the Silence. If you've never heard it, it's really interesting because it's got Martin singing. And Martin originally anticipated the song to be a slow song. And it wasn't until Alan Wilder and Flood got a hold of it that they decided to make it an up-tempo song. But it also has Enjoy the Silence, the Ricky Tick Tick mix, and then the B-side Mephisto, which is like an instrumental. Kind of reminds me of Pimp from Music for the Masses. But yeah, that's the Depeche Mode singles. The US CD single basically had everything except for the that quad final mix. But yeah, and here is the US version of Enjoy the Silence. This is what was released in the US. As opposed to 3 records, it was just 1 record. It contained the quad final mix, the ecstatic dub, the bassline mix of Enjoy the Silence, the hands and feet mix of Enjoy the Silence, and the B-side Mephisto. It did not have Sibling on there. But yeah, you can see on the sticker it says, also available on compact disc maxi single and cassette maxi single. So it had 3 formats that were released. At this point, around 1990-91, most of the chain stores were phasing out vinyl records. It was more CDs or cassette tapes. And these are the chain music stores. I'm trying to think of some of the names back then. But in order to buy these vinyl records, you'd have to go into a quote-unquote record store to get those. So yeah, that's Enjoy the Silence. Next up, we have Policy of Truth. And here is what that cover looks like. I think that's pretty awesome. Kind of based on the look of the music video that was shot in New York City. So here is the back of that. Again, this is kind of modeling after the UK release. This contains the Policy of Truth beatbox mix, Policy of Truth capital mix, and then Khalid, which is a B-side, another instrumental song, and this is When Worlds mix. So it's more of a dancier version than the regular 7-inch. And then here is the second record, Policy of Truth. And this one actually extends out. So you've got this sort of look. Really cool there. Got that. Then on the back, that's what it looks like. And this contains Policy of Truth, a Trans Central mix, which was done by the music group KLF. And then Khalid remix. And then Policy of Truth, Pavlov's dub. I don't know if there was a 7-inch version of Khalid that was officially released. I think I have it like on a bootleg. I mean, they all sound similar, but they're kind of they're instrumentals. It's not a slow song. It's more a dance song. I think it's one of those Depeche Mode intro songs that they use in the Violator tour at the beginning of the show to get people pumped up. Um, Pavlov's Dub. It's kind of a more like a instrumental that they put the chorus in every now and then. And there's a sample of some guy. I can't remember what's he saying. I cannot remember what he said, but they just sample some old guy rambling on about something. Now that Pavlov dub, A Policy of Truth, that's not released in the U.S. on the U.S. CD single, but it is on the cassette tape. Again, the When Worlds mix of Callide, that is not on the U.S. CD single, but it is on the cassette tape. So in order to get all those remixes, and back then I wanted to get my hands on everything, collect them all like Pokemon. So I would buy the CDs and the cassette tapes because then I'd have everything. At that time, it was hard to find those records, but I did get them eventually. But yeah, I swore there was another remix, A Policy of Truth, maybe on the UK release. I want to say it was remixed by. I could just be going crazy. I have to look this up, but I thought like Garbage or somebody, but that it could have been Garbage because that couldn't be right because Garbage was not by the music group Garbage with Shirley Manson, Butch Vig. They were not out in 1990, so that could not. Maybe I'm just imagining things there. I'm probably thinking of I know I'm thinking of In Your Room potentially, but all right. The next single on there is World in My Eyes, which is really cool. I love the look of that. Here is the back. Again, I don't have the original UK singles, but I know this pretty much mimics what was on there. But this has the World in My Eyes Oil Tank mix, Happiest Girl Kissa mix, and then Sea of Sin Sensoria mix. So Happiest Girl and Sea of Sin were B-sides. I think Sea of Sin is probably the best Depeche Mode B-side ever made. I love that song. Let's see what it looks like on the inside. So orange. And then we have this blue record. Excuse me, there are actually three records for World in My Eyes. But here's the second one. Got this blue kind of cover on it. Let's see what's on here. This is what that... Oh, I have to take a look at this. There seems to be some artwork on here. Oh, this is very cool. I don't know if I've actually seen this. So I think this is from the World Violation tour here. Yeah. So that's really cool. Yeah, I like that. That's from World Violation tour. I have never seen that before, so I think that's cool. Let's see the track listing. It's a black record. But we have World in My Eyes dub In My Eyes mix, World in My Eyes Mode to Joy mix, and then Happiest Girl, the Pulsating Orbital mix. So just a couple things about that. I think World in My Eyes Mode to Joy mix is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Depeche Mode remix. Basically takes World in My Eyes and makes it into a really classy house mix, if you would say that. The Madonna's Vogue had come out by that time, and it doesn't sound like Vogue, but if there's a song close to it, that's probably the closest. And then Happiest Girl, which is a B-side for World in My Eyes, it has the pulsating orbital mix, which was never released in the US on any format. And that was remixed by the people from the Orb, the UK group, the Orb, which made like ambient music. They have a great song called Little Fluffy Clouds. If you've never heard that, it's a fun song. But I like that remix too. It's a shame they didn't release it in the US, but it's on that record. So the third copy is a promotional copy release. So I guess this was released as a promotion back in the day. And it was, it's got World in My Eyes Mayhem Mode Mix, which was remixed by John Marsh of The Beloved. Back in the early 90s, they have a song called Let's Get Together. Let's get together right now in sweet harmony. Excuse me, it's called Sweet Harmony. It's called Sweet Harmony. But he did a remix of World in My Eyes. What's so special about this song, and I don't think I had heard this remix until the vinyl box sets came out, is that if you listen to like World in My Eyes, and it's if you ever listen to that song live when Depeche Mode still plays it, they basically it starts out with this like acid type of style, which John Marsh put into this remix. So his remix really inspired the live version of World in My Eyes. So that's why I'm so surprised it took this long to come out. And then the other album is the Happiest Girl Pulsating Orbital Mix, which is on the other record. So, but yeah, that's cool. Let me talk about the US release of World in My Eyes. So I've got two releases. Actually, I have the CD single as well, but I have the record and I have the cassette tape maxi single, which I probably played the heck out of. But on the US vinyl, here's what it looks like. It's got a cool cover. And let's see if that's... Actually, it's different than the UK, which is interesting. So it's got... here's the box set, and then the US release I'll stick back there. So it's got the same cover, but if you look on the back, it's different. The US artwork is the same as The World in My Eyes 2, which is the blue. It's got that blue, but it's the same photos. Yeah, it's the same photos. So that's an interesting thing that I just noticed. But on the US release, it has on the vinyl, it's World in My Eyes Oil Tank Mix, World in My Eyes Dub in My Eyes Mix, which was not on the CD single, if I remember correctly. And then a Sea of Sin Sensoria Mix, and World in My Eyes Mode to Joy Mix, and then Happiest Girl Jack Mix, which I don't... Let me just double check, but I don't know if the Jack Mix is on the UK release. So, yeah, it might not be, unless it was mislabeled. So that might be something different, which surprises me. If I remember right, Happiest Girl Jack Mix, I think that's maybe like the 7-inch version of Happiest Girl. Yeah. Yeah, so I think even though they call it the Jack mix, I think that is the 7-inch version, um, or closest that we have. So the cassette tape has the U.S. cassette tape has "World in My Eyes," "Oil Tank Mix," "World in My Eyes," "Dub in My Eyes" mix, "Sea of Sin," "Sensoria" mix, "Mode to Joy" mix for "World in My Eyes," and "Happiest Girl" Jack mix. So the cassette tape and the vinyl in the U.S. have the same track listings, uh, but I know the CD single does not. It's got the 7-inch, I believe, of "Sea of Sin," which I think it would have been nice if they put like a 7-inch on those box set records. I know I've said that a million times. So just in my own personal collection, I wanted to show something for Violator. Um, it really surprises me, but there's really not. They never released anything officially for the World Violation Tour. I wish I could have seen that tour. I was a little too young at that time. I didn't get to see it. I know that they came to Cincinnati, Ohio, and played at Riverbend, and because my friends saw them. But you think that after following the success of 101 for Music for the Masses, that live album, you wish, and considering how successful Violator was, you wish Depeche Mode would have released a live video or live album for that officially. Now, what I have here is like a really like good copy of the World Violation Tour. As a matter of fact, it says Holy Grail Archive Concert Series presents the only known professional soundboard recording of the Violator Tour, presented in its entirety over 3 vinyl LPs. The ultimate gift for any Depeche Mode fan. So this is Violator live. You can see the back. I'm just shocked that this was never released officially. So there's nothing particular about the artwork. But I'll give you the track listing. And this is from a big show too. It was recorded August 4th, 1990 in Dodger Stadium. The show opened up with Khalid, which I told you, the B-side of Policy of Truth. It's kind of a dance instrumental song to get people riled up. And then the show started with World in My Eyes, followed by Halo, Shake the Disease, Everything Counts, Master and Servant, Never Let Me Down Again. And then they slowed it down with Waiting for the Night. It has I Want You Now, World Full of Nothing, Clean, Stripped, Policy of Truth, Enjoy the Silence, Strange Love, Personal Jesus, Black Celebration, Question of Time, Behind the Wheel, and Route 66. So I would have loved to have seen that concert live. Would have loved to see them on that tour. I mean, the track listing alone sounds really, really good. It's been a while since I've listened to it, but what I've listened to is the sound quality is great. They played the Beatmasters remix of Route 66, but like Roll Full of Nothing, that's like an album track from Black Celebration, which I don't know if I think they did maybe play an acoustic version of that later on down the road. I have not heard this live version of I Want You Now, or at least I forget what it sounds like. I know they played that also on the Songs of Faith and Devotion tour for the Safari tour in '94 for Songs of Faith and Devotion, but they rocked it up for that version. And Strange Love, this may have been the last time they played Strange Love live. I could be wrong on that, but for whatever reason, Depeche Mode never plays Strange Love anymore, which I think is kind of sad. I remember being at a concert and somebody was holding a banner saying "Play Strange Love." So I don't know why they don't like that song. Maybe they just got sick of playing it. But yeah, so that's the records for Violator and some of the differences between the UK and the US releases. I hope you had fun. Hopefully you may have learned something. If you have a favorite track from Violator or favorite Depeche Mode album, let me know. And yeah, next up is Songs of Faith and Devotion. Catch you later.